Chapter 1: The Princess Who Wanted to Understand Humanity. The galaxy had studied humanity for nearly 200 years. They had analyzed human technology, measured human military strength, decoded thousands of Earth languages, recorded every major war humanity had ever fought. Yet despite all that, the Galactic Council reached one embarrassing conclusion. We still don't understand humans. Every species had predictable behavior. The Varel honored logic above all else. The Surians valued wealth. The Korvac worshipped strength. But humans cried during weddings. Humans laughed during funerals. Humans celebrated victories with strangers. They gave gifts without expecting payment. They called complete strangers family. None of it made sense. Then someone proposed an unusual solution. If we truly wish to understand humanity, send someone to live among them. The council agreed, but they didn't send a scientist. They didn't send a diplomat. They sent the youngest royal in the galaxy, Princess Lyra, daughter of the Celestial Empire. She had mastered politics, military strategy, 700 alien languages, quantum engineering. Yet there was one thing she had never experienced: human traditions. When her silver shuttle landed on Earth, reporters crowded around the arrival platform. Humans smiled. Children waved colorful flags. Musicians played cheerful songs. Princess Lyra stared in confusion. She quietly asked her translator, "Why are they celebrating?" The translator answered, "They're welcoming you, but they have never met me. They don't have to." Lyra blinked. That was the first human mystery. The United Earth government assigned a cultural ambassador to guide her. His name was Daniel Carter, an ordinary history teacher, not a soldier, not a politician, just a teacher. Lyra frowned. The council selected him? Daniel laughed. I get that reaction a lot. I expected someone more important. Daniel smiled. In human culture, teachers are important. That answer puzzled her even more. During their first walk through the city, Lyra noticed something strange. Humans smiled at strangers. They thanked bus drivers. They held doors open for people they would never see again. One elderly woman dropped her groceries. Before Daniel could move, 5 strangers rushed over to help. Nobody asked for money. Nobody expected rewards. Lyra watched silently. Why? Daniel looked confused. Why what? Why would they help? He shrugged. Because she needed help. Lyra searched for hidden motives. There were none. No cameras, no publicity, no payment, just kindness. That single moment challenged everything she had learned. The next morning, Daniel invited her to breakfast. The table was filled with food: bread, eggs, fruit, tea. Lyra scanned the room. Where are the servants? Daniel laughed. We cook together. She frowned. The family prepares its own meals? Usually. She sat carefully. Then Daniel's grandmother entered the kitchen. She hugged Daniel. Then, without hesitation, she hugged Lyra. The princess froze. Her guards reached for their weapons. Daniel raised a hand. It's okay. Grandmother smiled warmly. Welcome to the family. Lyra whispered, I am not your family. The old woman smiled. You are today. The princess had no reply. Later that evening, they attended a neighborhood festival. Music echoed through the streets. Children danced. Neighbors shared food. Old friends embraced. Even complete strangers laughed together. Lyra watched in silence. This is unusual. Daniel nodded. It's tradition. What purpose does it serve? He looked around. It reminds us we're never alone. The words stayed with her. For the first time, the princess wasn't observing humans. She was beginning to admire them, and she didn't even realize. Chapter 2: The Ancient Human Festival. The following morning, Princess Lyra awoke to an unfamiliar sound. Laughter. Not the formal, restrained laughter of royal courts, not the calculated amusement of politicians. This was loud, carefree, and genuine. She stepped onto the balcony overlooking the neighborhood. The streets below had transformed overnight. Colorful banners fluttered between buildings. Children chased one another with ribbons. Food stalls lined the sidewalks, filling the air with the aromas of fresh bread, roasted vegetables, grilled meat, and sweet pastries. Musicians played lively tunes while couples danced in the open square. Lyra turned to Daniel. What military victory is being celebrated today? Daniel chuckled. None. Then what historical event? Nope. She tilted her head. Then why is everyone celebrating? Daniel smiled. Because it's Saturday. Lyra stared at him. They organize an entire festival every week? Not exactly. People simply enjoy spending time together when they have the chance. The princess searched his face, expecting a joke. He wasn't joking. As they entered the festival, dozens of people greeted Daniel. Morning, Dan. Good to see you. Who's your friend? Daniel introduced her without ceremony. This is Princess Lyra. For a brief moment, the crowd fell silent. Then an elderly baker smiled. Welcome to Earth, Princess. A little girl stepped forward, holding a flower crown. My mom made this for you. Lyra hesitated. No payment? The girl's mother laughed. It's a gift. The princess carefully accepted it. In my empire, she admitted softly, gifts are exchanged only between political allies. The woman smiled. On Earth, kindness doesn't always need a reason. Those words echoed in Lyra's mind. They wandered through the festival. An old musician invited strangers to sing with him. Teenagers taught children new dances. Neighbors competed in pie baking contests, laughing louder than the winners. No one seemed concerned about status. A construction worker danced beside a famous scientist. A mayor shared lunch with street cleaners. No one appeared above anyone else. Lyra whispered, How do humans know everyone's social rank? Daniel looked puzzled. We don't usually care. She blinked. You don't. We respect people because they're people. For someone raised in a rigid imperial hierarchy, the idea was almost impossible to comprehend. Near the center of the square, a family gathered around a large cake covered in candles. Everyone began singing. The birthday boy, no older than 8, laughed so hard he nearly forgot to blow out the candles. The crowd applauded as though he had accomplished something extraordinary. Lyra leaned toward Daniel. What great achievement is being honored? Daniel smiled. Who turned 8 today? That's all? That's enough. The boy eagerly cut the first slice. Instead of eating it himself, he handed it to his grandmother. Then to his younger sister. Only afterward did he take a piece for himself. Lyra watched silently. He served others before himself. Daniel nodded. That's something many families teach. Later that afternoon, church bells rang across the town. A wedding procession emerged from a nearby garden. Guests stood as the bride and groom walked together beneath an arch of flowers. Lyra observed every detail with fascination. When the ceremony ended, the couple embraced while their families cheered. People who had argued moments before were now laughing together. Old rivalries disappeared, if only for a day. Why forgive so easily? Lyra asked. Daniel looked toward the newlyweds. Because some moments matter more than old disagreements. The answer lingered in her thoughts. As evening approached, lanterns illuminated the streets. Families gathered for one final meal before returning home. Daniel's grandmother placed another plate in front of Lyra. You've barely eaten. I'm not accustomed to family meals. The old woman smiled kindly. Then tonight you learn. Everyone waited before touching their food. Lyra noticed the silence. What are we waiting for? Daniel answered quietly. My grandfather always starts dinner by thanking everyone at the table. But he passed away years ago. Daniel nodded. Traditions help us remember the people we love. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Princess Lyra felt something unfamiliar. Not confusion, not curiosity, warmth. She looked around the table. None of these people were bound by blood, yet they treated one another like family. And somehow, they had begun treating her the same way. She lowered her eyes and whispered, Daniel? Yes. There is much about humanity that my people never understood. Daniel smiled. We've only just begun. The princess nodded slowly. Then, with complete sincerity, she made a request that would change both their lives. Will you teach me all of your traditions? Daniel grinned. It would be an honor. Chapter 3. Teach me your traditions. The next morning, Princess Lyra stood in front of a small notebook. Its cover read, Human Traditions, Lessons. She held a pen awkwardly. My instructors at the Imperial Academy required flawless memory, she said. Why do humans write things down? Daniel smiled. Because memories fade. Stories deserve to last. Lyra wrote her first note. Lesson 1. Humans preserve memories because they value people more than perfection. Daniel looked over the day's schedule. No royal ceremonies, no diplomatic meetings, no military inspections. Lyra frowned. What are today's lessons? Daniel grinned. You'll help my grandmother bake bread. The princess stared at him. I crossed half the galaxy to make bread. You crossed half the galaxy to understand humans. Inside the warm kitchen, Daniel's grandmother placed a bowl of flour on the table. First rule, she said, don't be afraid to make a mess. Lyra carefully measured every grain. Every movement was precise. Grandmother gently shook her head. You're thinking too much. She took Lyra's hands and guided them into the soft dough. The princess laughed in surprise as flour puffed into the air. Daniel chuckled. Congratulations. For what? You've officially made your first human mess. For a moment, the princess forgot she was royalty. She laughed louder than anyone. Hours later, the bread emerged from the oven. Its shape wasn't perfect. One loaf leaned to the side. Another had cracked across the top. Lyra frowned. I failed. Grandmother sliced the loaf and handed everyone a piece. It was warm, soft, delicious. Daniel smiled. Looks aren't everything. Grandmother nodded. In this house, love is the secret ingredient. Lyra quietly wrote another note. Lesson 2. Perfection matters less than the care you give. That afternoon, Daniel took her to a city park. Children were flying colorful kites. Parents cheered as the kites climbed into the blue sky. Lyra watched one little boy struggle with tangled strings. Without hesitation, several strangers walked over to help. Within minutes, the kite soared high above the trees. The boy laughed with pure joy. No one asked whose child he was, Lyra observed. Daniel shook his head. Sometimes happiness belongs to everyone. As the sun began to set, they sat beneath a large oak tree. Daniel pulled an old photo album from his backpack. The pages were worn with age. This was my grandfather. The picture showed a smiling young soldier. He fought in Earth's unity wars. Another photograph showed the same man years later, holding a newborn baby. My father. Another page. Daniel as a child, fishing with his grandfather, camping, celebrating birthdays. Lyra traced a photograph gently with her finger. Humans carry their ancestors everywhere. Daniel nodded. They remind us who we are. She looked toward the horizon. My people preserve history in crystal archives. Daniel smiled. We preserve ours in stories. That evening, Lyra returned to her guest room. She activated her secure communicator. An image of Emperor Asterion, her father, appeared. My daughter, he said, have you completed your cultural assessment? Lyra hesitated. No, father. What remains? She looked at her notebook. I thought I was studying traditions. And I've realized I'm studying hearts. The Emperor remained silent. Lyra continued. They share food with strangers. They honor the elderly. They celebrate ordinary days. They remember the dead without forgetting to laugh. I do not yet understand humanity, but I believe their traditions are the foundation of their strength. For the first time, even the Emperor had no immediate reply. Later that night, Daniel found Lyra standing beneath the stars. Couldn't sleep? He asked. She shook her head. I keep asking myself one question. What is it? If these traditions make humans so compassionate, why has the galaxy always considered humanity dangerous? Daniel looked up at the stars. Because kindness doesn't mean weakness. He paused before continuing. When humans protect the people they love, there are very few forces in the universe that can stop them. Lyra slowly nodded. For the first time, she understood that human traditions were not simple customs. They were the source of humanity's courage. And somewhere deep inside her, a quiet hope began to grow. Perhaps one day, she would carry those traditions back to her own people. Chapter 4. The Meaning of Family. The following week, Princess Lyra had settled into a rhythm that no one in the imperial court would have believed. She woke early, helped Daniel's grandmother prepare breakfast, walked children safely across the street to school, spent afternoons learning about Earth's history, and every evening she wrote another lesson in her growing notebook. The pages were filling quickly, not with facts, but with values. One afternoon, Daniel received an urgent phone call. His expression changed immediately. What happened? Lyra asked. My friend Marcus was injured during a rescue operation. Is he your brother? Daniel shook his head. No. A cousin? No. Then why are we rushing? Daniel looked at her with a gentle smile. Because he's family. Lyra frowned. But you said he isn't related to you. He isn't by blood. Then explain. Daniel paused as they hurried toward the hospital. Humans have a saying. Family isn't always the people you're born with. Sometimes it's the people who choose to stand beside you. Lyra silently repeated the words. Choose to stand beside you. That idea didn't exist in the Empire. Family was determined by birth, rank, and bloodline. Nothing else. The hospital was busy. Doctors and nurses moved quickly through the halls. Marcus lay in bed with a broken arm and several cuts, but he was smiling. Hey, Dan, he called out. You brought the princess. Daniel laughed. You nearly got yourself killed. Worth it. Lyra stepped closer. What happened? Marcus shrugged. A transport crashed into the river. How many people did you save? He thought for a moment. I don't know. You didn't count? There wasn't time. Lyra stared at him. You risked your life. For strangers. Marcus smiled. They weren't strangers after that. Outside the room, Lyra watched dozens of people arrive. Neighbors, co-workers, old classmates, each carrying flowers, meals, or handwritten cards. One elderly man quietly paid part of Marcus's medical expenses without telling anyone. Another volunteered to repair his damaged home while he recovered. No one asked for repayment. No contracts were signed. No political advantage was gained. Daniel noticed Lyra's silence. What are you thinking? She answered honestly. In my empire, kindness is rewarded. He nodded. And here, kindness simply exists. That evening, Daniel took Lyra to a community center. A sign outside read, Food Drive. Everyone welcome. Volunteers packed boxes with rice, vegetables, canned food, blankets, and medicine. Children helped carry supplies. Teenagers loaded trucks. Retired veterans sorted donations. The princess watched people from every background working together. They all belong to the same organization? Daniel smiled. No. The same government? No. The same species? He laughed. Definitely not. She looked around. Then why are they helping? Daniel answered quietly. Because someone needs help. Again, the same answer. Simple, honest, powerful. That night, Princess Lyra opened her notebook once more. She slowly wrote another lesson. Lesson 3. Humans build families wherever compassion exists. She stared at the sentence for several minutes, then added one more line beneath it. Perhaps that is why humanity is never truly alone. The next morning, a priority transmission arrived from orbit. The Galactic Council. Its emblem shimmered across the room. A stern counselor appeared. Princess Lyra, you have spent 3 months on Earth. It is time for your official report. The room fell silent. Every ambassador across the galaxy would hear her words. The council expected statistics, military observations, technological analysis. Instead, Princess Lyra closed her notebook and spoke from the heart. I came to study human traditions. I believed traditions were merely rituals. I was wrong. They are promises. A shared meal promises that no one eats alone. A birthday promises every life has value. A wedding promises loyalty. A funeral promises that love survives loss. And family. She paused, remembering Marcus, Daniel, and the crowded hospital room. Family is a promise that no one must face hardship alone. The council chamber became silent. Some delegates exchanged confused glances. Others listened with growing curiosity. Then one counselor asked, Princess, are these customs truly powerful enough to influence galactic civilization? Lyra smiled. You misunderstand. They already have. As the transmission ended, an alarm suddenly echoed through the building. Emergency sirens blared. Daniel looked toward the window. High above Earth, hundreds of unidentified starships had just emerged from hyperspace. Princess Lyra's smile vanished. She recognized the formation immediately. The black banners, the crimson insignias. There was only one fleet in the known galaxy that traveled in such perfect silence. The Dominion, an empire that conquered worlds without mercy, and they were heading straight for Earth. Chapter 5. The Human Dinner Table. The emergency sirens echoed across every city on Earth. People looked toward the sky. Children stopped playing. Traffic came to a halt. Above the clouds, hundreds of dark warships drifted into orbit, like a storm swallowing the stars. Princess Lyra's face turned pale. There is no mistake. she whispered. "That is the Dominion fleet." Daniel studied the enormous vessels. "Who are they?" Lyra took a slow breath. "The Dominion has ruled through fear for nearly 1,000 years. They do not negotiate. They do not compromise. They conquer." Within minutes, world leaders gathered in an emergency council. Military commanders prepared planetary defenses. Orbital stations raised their shields. Earth's fleets launched into defensive positions. Daniel watched the preparations. "You've seen them before." Lyra nodded. "My people fought them once. On the Dominion fleet, or the Dendens fleet dunes. We survived. Only because we surrendered." The room fell silent. No one liked the sound of that answer. Then the Dominion's leader appeared on every screen across Earth. His towering armored figure filled the display. "I am High Commander Varkor. You will surrender your world, your governments, your fleets, your resources. Refuse. Your civilization ends today." The transmission ended. Fear spread through the room. But Daniel noticed something unusual. No one panicked. People simply got to work. Firefighters prepared evacuation plans. Doctors organized emergency hospitals. Neighbors checked on elderly residents. Volunteers distributed food and water. Lyra watched in disbelief. They're preparing for war. Helping one another. Daniel nodded. "That's what humans do." That evening, despite the threat hanging over the planet, Daniel's grandmother set the dinner table. Lyra looked at her in disbelief. "You're having dinner?" Grandmother smiled. "Of course. The galaxy's most dangerous fleet is above your planet, and everyone still needs to eat." Soon the table filled with familiar faces. Daniel, Marcus, his arm still in a cast, neighbors, children, even 2 soldiers who had been stationed nearby. No one sat according to rank. No one demanded the best seat. Everyone simply made room for whoever arrived. Grandmother carried out one last loaf of bread. "There, now everyone's included." Lyra counted the chairs. There weren't enough seats. Daniel grinned. "There are now." He pulled another chair from the corner. Someone always made room. Halfway through the meal, the electricity flickered. The invasion fleet had begun disrupting Earth's satellites. The room darkened. For a moment, no one spoke. Then little Emma, the girl who had given Lyra the flower crown weeks ago, quietly asked, "Are we going to be okay?" The room fell silent. Daniel looked around the table, then smiled. "We're together." "That's a good place to start." The adults nodded. No grand speeches, no false promises, just quiet confidence. Lyra felt something tighten in her chest. She finally understood. This dinner wasn't about food. It never had been. It was about reminding one another that no one faced fear alone. Later that night, Lyra wrote another lesson. Lesson 4. The human dinner table is not furniture. It is a promise. No matter how dark the world becomes, there will always be a place for you. A single tear landed on the page. She quickly wiped it away. In all her years as a princess, no royal banquet had ever taught her something so profound. At dawn, alarms rang once more. The Dominion had launched its first wave of attack ships. Earth's defense fleet accelerated into orbit. Explosions lit the morning sky like distant thunder. Daniel looked toward the horizon. "It's starting." Lyra closed her notebook. "No." Daniel turned to her. She stood taller than ever before. "The Dominion believes humanity's strength lies in its weapons." A determined smile crossed her face. "They're about to discover that humanity's greatest strength is its heart." Chapter 6. A Promise Under the Stars. The battle for Earth's orbit had begun. From the ground, the sky looked alive. Brilliant streaks of blue and white raced between the stars as Earth's defense fleet met the Dominion head-on. Every few seconds, a distant flash lit the heavens. Princess Lyra watched silently from the command center. She recognized the Dominion's battle formations. "They're testing Earth's defenses," she said. "They haven't committed their main fleet yet." A general frowned. "They're holding back?" Lyra nodded. "They believe humanity will surrender after seeing their power." Daniel folded his arms. "They don't know humans very well." Reports flooded into the command room. "Orbital Station 7 is damaged. Evacuation complete. Medical teams are treating the wounded. Power has been restored in Sector 12. What surprised Lyra wasn't the efficiency. It was the attitude. No one blamed each other. No one argued over whose job was more important. Pilots thanked mechanics. Doctors thanked rescue workers. Soldiers thanked civilians for delivering supplies. Everyone understood they were fighting for the same home. Later that evening, Daniel and Lyra stepped outside. The city had entered a blackout to make enemy targeting more difficult. Without artificial lights, the stars stretched across the sky in breathtaking clarity. For a few moments, the war felt far away. Daniel looked upward. "My grandfather used to say something." "What?" "Whenever you look at the stars, remember that someone you love may be looking at the same sky." Lyra smiled softly. "That is beautiful." It helped him whenever he was away from home. She gazed at the stars, thinking of her father in the Celestial Empire. For the first time in weeks, she missed home. But she also realized something else. Earth had begun to feel like home too. A secure transmission interrupted the quiet night. The image of Emperor Asterion appeared. His expression was grave. "My daughter." "Father, the Dominion has contacted the Empire." Lyra's heart sank. "What did they demand?" "Your immediate return." "And if I refuse?" The Emperor lowered his eyes. "They will consider the Empire an enemy." Silence filled the air. Daniel stepped back, giving them privacy. The Emperor spoke gently. "You are my only child. You are heir to the throne. Come home." Lyra closed her notebook. For years, duty had guided every decision she made. Duty to her people, duty to her family, duty to the throne. But during her time on Earth, she had learned another kind of duty. The duty to stand beside those who stood beside you. She looked directly at her father. "You once taught me that a ruler protects their people." "I did." "Then humanity is my people now too." The Emperor closed his eyes. For a long moment he said nothing. Finally he smiled, proudly. "You sound less like a princess, and more like a true leader." The transmission ended. Daniel walked over. "Everything okay?" Lyra nodded. "I made my choice, and I'm staying." Daniel extended his hand. "Then welcome to the team." She looked at the offered hand, remembering the first time a human had greeted her with such a gesture. This time, she didn't hesitate. She shook it firmly. A simple human tradition, a handshake, a promise of trust. Suddenly, emergency alarms blared across the city. An officer rushed into the command center. "They've done it. The Dominion's flagship has entered low orbit." On the main screen appeared a colossal warship unlike anything Earth had ever seen. It dwarfed every vessel around it. Its cannons slowly turned toward the planet. The High Commander Varkor appeared once more. "This is your final warning. Surrender, or witness the destruction of your greatest cities." The transmission ended. The room fell silent. Then Daniel looked at Lyra. "What do humans do now?" She smiled. "I believe you taught me the answer." She remembered every lesson she had written, every shared meal, every act of kindness, every promise. Then she looked around the room and spoke with complete confidence. "We stand together." And for the first time since the Dominion had arrived, No one in the room felt alone. Chapter 7. The Galaxy Laughs. Across the galaxy, billions of eyes turned toward Earth. News networks interrupted their regular broadcasts. The Galactic Council opened an emergency session. Every major civilization watched the same live feed. A young planet, defended by a relatively small fleet, stood against the unstoppable Dominion. Many expected the battle to last only a few hours. Some gave humanity even less time. In the council chamber, whispers spread through the delegates. The humans are finished. They've never faced an enemy like this. Their courage is admirable, but pointless. A few delegates looked toward Emperor Asterion. He remained silent, though his face revealed nothing. His thoughts were fixed on his daughter. On the Dominion flagship, High Commander Varkor studied Earth's defensive formations. He frowned. "Why haven't they surrendered?" An officer answered cautiously. "They continue evacuating civilians, Commander." "And their fleet?" "They're holding formation." Varkor smiled coldly. "They're brave." Another officer shook his head. "No, Commander. They're calm." That answer disturbed him far more than bravery. Back on Earth, Daniel walked through the city streets. Instead of panic, he saw determination. Restaurants were cooking free meals for rescue workers. Schools had become emergency shelters. Engineers repaired damaged power lines. Neighbors carried supplies to people they had never met. Princess Lyra walked beside him. "How can they remain so hopeful?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "Hope isn't something humans wait for. We build it." Then something unexpected happened. A transport carrying medical supplies lost power while trying to reach an orbital hospital. Without hesitation, civilian pilots launched their own ships. None of them were soldiers. None carried weapons. They formed a protective escort around the damaged transport, shielding it from enemy fire until it reached safety. The entire rescue was broadcast live across the galaxy. The council chamber fell silent. One delegate whispered, "They risked their lives." "For doctors?" Another replied, "They risked their lives for strangers." Princess Lyra smiled. "They're not strangers. They're family." The broadcast spread rapidly. On dozens of worlds, ordinary citizens watched with growing admiration. For centuries, the galaxy had believed humanity's greatest strength was its resilience. Now they realized it was something deeper. Humans refused to abandon one another, even in the face of overwhelming odds. High Commander Varkor slammed his fist onto the command console. "Enough. If fear will not break them, then we will." He ordered the Dominion fleet to prepare its most devastating weapon. A massive planetary cannon slowly unfolded beneath the flagship. Its energy core glowed brighter with every passing second. One shot would devastate an entire continent. Earth had only minutes. Inside the command center, alarms screamed. An officer shouted, "They're charging a planet-killer weapon." The room froze. Princess Lyra stepped forward. She studied the tactical display. Then she noticed something, a tiny flaw in the Dominion's formation. A narrow corridor left unguarded while the cannon charged. She turned to Daniel. "I have an idea." Daniel looked at her. "It'll be dangerous, won't it?" She smiled. "You humans have been teaching me your traditions." He nodded. "And one of them is standing beside your family." She looked around the room. "I intend to do exactly that." The officers leaned in as Lyra began outlining a daring plan, one that relied not only on strategy, but on the trust and unity she had learned from humanity. If it worked, Earth might survive. If it failed, the battle would be over. Chapter 8. Humanity's Secret Strength. Silence filled the command center as Princess Lyra finished explaining her plan. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, one of Earth's admirals broke the silence. You want a handful of ships to fly directly through the Dominion fleet, while their planet-killer weapon is charging? Lyra nodded. Yes. The admiral looked at the tactical display again. The odds are terrible. Daniel smiled. Then it sounds like a very human plan. A few officers laughed. The tension in the room eased. The mission was simple. Not easy. Simple. A small strike team would slip through the narrow gap in the Dominion formation. They would disable the weapon's energy regulators before it reached full power. If they succeeded, Earth would survive. If they failed, there would be no second chance. Volunteers filled the room before anyone was asked. I'll fly. My ship's ready. Count me in. Lyra looked around in disbelief. None of you know if you'll return. A veteran pilot shrugged. If my family gets another sunrise, worth the risk. She realized he wasn't talking only about his wife and children. He meant the entire planet. As the strike team prepared for launch, Daniel walked with Lyra to her shuttle. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. She smiled. When I first arrived on Earth, I believed traditions were ceremonies. And now, I know their choices. She looked at him. You taught me that family stands together. I'm simply following the lesson. Daniel extended his hand. She shook it firmly. No words were needed. Minutes later, the small fleet burst into space. The Dominion barely noticed them. To Varkor, they looked like insignificant patrol craft. Ignore them, he ordered. Continue charging the cannon. That mistake would haunt him. Flying through the battlefield, Lyra remained calm. Missiles streaked past her cockpit. Laser fire flashed across the darkness. One escort ship took a direct hit. Its pilot transmitted a final message. Keep going. The remaining ships pressed forward. No one turned back. They reached the flagship. The narrow corridor Lyra had discovered was still open. One by one, the strike craft slipped through. Engineers aboard the Dominion vessel suddenly realized what was happening. Commander! Enemy ships inside the defensive perimeter. Varkor's eyes widened. Impossible. Lyra guided her shuttle toward the exposed energy regulators. Target locked, her co-pilot announced. Fire! Bright pulses slammed into the regulator array. The enormous cannon trembled. Warning lights spread across the Dominion flagship. Energy surged wildly through its systems. Varkor shouted, "Shut it down!" But it was too late. The overloaded weapon discharged harmlessly into empty space, creating a brilliant beam that vanished into the darkness between the stars. Earth was safe. Cheers erupted across every human ship. The command center exploded with applause. People hugged each other. Some laughed. Some cried. Daniel simply looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you." Across the galaxy, the live broadcast stunned billions. The Galactic Council watched in complete silence. One delegate finally spoke. It wasn't superior technology. Another nodded. It wasn't overwhelming numbers. Emperor Asterion smiled proudly. It was trust. As Lyra's damaged shuttle returned toward Earth, Daniel welcomed her at the landing pad. Without thinking, Daniel's grandmother stepped forward and embraced the princess. This time, Lyra hugged her back without hesitation. The old woman smiled. Welcome home. For the first time since leaving the Empire, Princess Lyra answered with complete certainty, "I'm home." Yet their celebration lasted only a moment. A priority alert echoed through the command center. High Commander Varkor appeared once more on every screen. His expression was no longer arrogant. It was furious. If humanity will not surrender, then I will lead the final assault myself. Behind him, the remaining Dominion fleet began moving toward Earth. The decisive battle had arrived. Chapter 9. The Princess Defends Earth. The Dominion fleet advanced in perfect formation. Thousands of warships blocked out the stars. Their engines glowed crimson, casting an eerie light across Earth's orbit. Every radar screen flashed with the same message: "Enemy fleet approaching." The final battle had begun. Inside Earth's command center, the mood was calm, not because victory was certain, but because everyone knew their role. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Engineers repaired damaged ships. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Volunteers continued delivering food, water, and supplies. Princess Lyra looked around the room and smiled. "No one is waiting to be told what to do." Daniel nodded. "That's another human tradition. Helping before you're asked." Lyra wrote one last note in her notebook. Lesson 5. True courage is ordinary people choosing to help each other. A transmission from the Galactic Council interrupted the preparations. The Council's speaker appeared on the screen. "Princess Lyra, your actions have inspired countless worlds. Several civilizations have voted to assist Earth." One by one, new signals appeared on the tactical display. Ships from the Celestial Empire, medical vessels from the Varel, supply carriers from the Surians, rescue ships from smaller worlds that had once feared the Dominion. They weren't coming to conquer. They were coming to stand together. Daniel smiled. "It looks like your lessons are spreading." Lyra replied softly, "No, humanity's lessons are." High Commander Varkor watched the reinforcements arrive. His expression darkened. "They're uniting." An officer answered, "Yes, Commander." "Why?" The officer hesitated. "They believe Earth is worth defending." For the first time in his long military career, Varkor realized he was facing something he did not understand. An alliance built not on fear, but on trust. The battle erupted across the stars. Human fighters flew beside alien cruisers. Engineers from different worlds repaired each other's ships. Rescue craft ignored species and rank, saving anyone in danger. Princess Lyra piloted her shuttle through the chaos, guiding damaged vessels to safety. She wasn't acting as a princess. She was acting as a friend. In the middle of the battle, Varkor's flagship broke through the defensive line. Its weapons locked onto Earth's command center. One direct hit would destroy the planet's ability to coordinate its defenses. Lyra saw the danger instantly. Without hesitation, she accelerated toward the flagship. Her communications officer shouted, "Princess, that's a suicide course." She answered calmly, "If I can delay him for even 1 minute, Earth gains 1 more minute to live." Daniel heard the transmission. He whispered, "Come back, Lyra." Just as Varkor prepared to fire, dozens of small ships suddenly surrounded Lyra's shuttle. They weren't warships. They were civilian freighters, mining vessels, repair craft, cargo transports, ordinary people. One pilot spoke over the open channel. "You taught us what family means." Another voice followed. "No one fights alone." Then another. "We've got your back." Within seconds, hundreds of civilian ships formed a living shield around Lyra. Varkor stared in disbelief. "They're protecting a single person?" His tactical officer corrected him. "No, Commander. They're protecting family." For the first time, the High Commander hesitated, and that single moment of hesitation gave Earth's fleet the opening it needed. A coordinated barrage struck the Dominion flagship, disabling its weapons and forcing it to retreat. The remaining Dominion ships, seeing their command vessel crippled, broke formation. One by one, they jumped into hyperspace. The invasion was over. As the sun rose over Earth the next morning, the skies were peaceful again. People emerged from shelters. Children laughed in the streets. Neighbors embraced. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary, not just a military victory, but the triumph of compassion, trust, and unity. Princess Lyra looked at Daniel and smiled. I think I'm finally ready to teach these traditions to my own people. Daniel smiled back. Then humanity just gained another ambassador. Chapter 10. A tradition shared across the galaxy. 1 month after the Dominion retreated, the galaxy was quieter than it had been in centuries. Trade routes reopened. Families returned home. Worlds that had lived in fear began rebuilding. But the greatest change was not political, it was personal. Princess Lyra's shuttle landed in the capital of the Celestial Empire. Thousands gathered to welcome their future empress. When the palace doors opened, Emperor Asterion stood waiting. For a brief moment, protocol demanded a formal royal greeting. Instead, Lyra walked forward and embraced her father. The entire royal court gasped. No emperor had ever been greeted that way. Asterion hesitated. Then he smiled and returned the hug. The silence in the throne room melted into warm applause. One simple human tradition had already changed the empire. A week later, representatives from dozens of civilizations arrived for a historic summit. They expected discussions about military alliances and defense treaties. Instead, Princess Lyra entered the Great Hall carrying a worn notebook. The same notebook Daniel had encouraged her to keep. She placed it on the table. This, she began, contains the most powerful knowledge I learned on Earth. Delegates leaned forward. Was it a new weapon? An advanced technology? A revolutionary scientific discovery? Lyra opened the notebook. The first page read, Lesson 1. Humans preserve memories because they value people more than perfection. She turned another page. Lesson 2. Perfection matters less than the care you give. Another. Lesson 3. Humans build families wherever compassion exists. Another. Lesson 4. The human dinner table is a promise that no one faces life alone. And finally, Lesson 5. True courage is ordinary people choosing to help each other. The chamber was completely silent. One delegate finally asked, Princess, are these truly the secrets of humanity's strength? Lyra smiled. No, they are the reasons humanity's strength exists. She looked around the hall. We spent centuries studying human ships. We should have studied their hearts. Months passed. Then years. Across the galaxy, remarkable changes began to appear. On worlds where rulers once dined alone, families and leaders now shared meals together. Schools introduced a yearly day of kindness, encouraging students to help strangers without expecting anything in return. Hospitals adopted the Earth tradition of welcoming volunteers from every background. Even old rival civilizations began exchanging cultural festivals instead of threats. None of these customs erased every conflict, but they made understanding possible. On Earth, Daniel continued teaching history at his small neighborhood school. One afternoon, his students asked, Mr. Carter, did you really teach an alien princess? He laughed. I tried. Did you succeed? Daniel smiled as he looked out the classroom window. I think we taught each other. Several years later, a familiar silver shuttle landed outside Daniel's home. The door opened. Princess Lyra stepped out, now wearing the ceremonial robes of an empress. Yet the first thing she did wasn't to salute or bow. She smiled and gave Daniel a warm hug. Welcome back, Daniel said. I've missed this place. Daniel's grandmother, a little older but still smiling, carried a fresh loaf of bread to the table. We saved you a seat. Lyra laughed. You always do. They sat together for dinner. No throne, no royal guards around the table. Just friends, just family. As night fell, Lyra looked toward the stars. "The galaxy still has much to learn," she said. Daniel nodded. "So do humans." She smiled. "Perhaps that's the best tradition of all." "Which one?" "Never stop learning from each other." Epilogue. Long after the war, historians tried to explain why the Dominion had failed. Some credited Earth's tactics. Others praised Princess Lyra's leadership. Military academies analyzed every battle. Scientists studied every ship. But an old historian on Earth wrote a different conclusion. The Dominion believed humanity's greatest strength was its weapons. They were wrong. Humanity's greatest strength was the empty chair they always kept at the table, because they believed there was always room for one more. And somewhere in the galaxy, whenever strangers became friends, whenever families welcomed someone new, whenever kindness was freely given, people smiled and called it by its new name, the human tradition. The end.
If you enjoyed this HFY Chronicles story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey across the stars. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.